Input. So this is the function that is going to calculate the user input. And this function is going to do two things. First, it's going to format the data in a way that we can easily do the calculations, and then it's actually going to do the calculations. So this first part, if you were to add a comment, is format user input. So the user sends information in an array format, right? So, well, they don't know that, but that's what's happening. So we just need to format it in a way that makes sense to us. So we're going to say for each user input as number. It doesn't have to be a number, but that's how we phrase it. And right, so this is where you have to stay with me. If it is numeric, if the number is numeric, again, I did this before, right? So it's not like I put it out from the top of my head. So I'm just going to run it through with you, exactly what's going on. So if the number is numeric, or if it's a point, what we want to do is concatenate it to the char variable that we have. And what this is basically saying is if you have multiple numbers consecutively, so if you have 555, then what we want all those things to be one number. So 555 is considered as one number, right? Or 5.3 is considered as one number. Great. So that's what's going on there. Next, we say if it is not numeric, that means we have our action. Should we have a different right? If it's not numeric, so we have a symbol which is plus, minus, or whatever. So if it's not numeric, that means it's a symbol or something to that effect. So what we're going to do is first we're going to say if char is not empty, then we add in char to the array. So let's run it through again. Maybe I'll get a whiteboard. Alright, so if it's non-numeric, we want to add everything to char. Or well, we want to add everything to the array. So again, with my whiteboard, horrible example, we have 1, 2, 3. So we pass in this, and as we pass this, we concatenate the values. So as we pass 1, because it's numeric, we add it 1. And then we pass 2 and we say, oh, so this is actually 2. So right now we have a number of 12. And then we pass 3 and we say, oh, this is actually 3. And we say this is not a number, which means this char variable here needs to go into the array, because now we actually have a number. Alright, and then we continue. So 4, 5, 6, and we say, oh, look at that, this goes into our array as well, because we actually have a number. Alright, so that's how we figure it out exactly, or that's how we differentiate in between what is a single number, what is a whole number, and what is just a symbol, whether it's plus or minus or divide or subtract. Yeah, calm yourself. So after we add char to the array, we need to make it empty again, right? So that we now open for any new values that we see. At the last point here, we say array is equal to num. So right now we're on the symbol, and again we need to add the symbol. We need to add this symbol, because we need to know that we're saying 1, 2, 3 star is equal to plus. When we actually do in the array, we say the number 1, 2, 3, the whole number 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, 456, right? But we still need the plus, so we add the array. And finally, I believe if the char is not empty, and this takes care of a certain condition, we add it. So this is at the end of everything, and that's for the case. Again, if you look at our little whiteboard example, in this case we're going to stop at 6, and we're not going to have any more symbols. So we have to say, well, if at the end of everything we seem to have something in the char variable we just need to add it to the array. Because if, let's say, we added something else here, then this would definitely get added. But if it doesn't have a symbol, then we would miss out these last numbers. So we just need to make sure to add those last any stragglers to the array. So that is great. And what we're going to do now is we're going to var dump the array and exit. And we need to call this when we just say calculate input. User input is what? Input. Right. So let's test that. Let's test our work. So 5 plus 3 plus 2 is equal to, so 5 plus 3 plus 2, right? So that's easy. What we want to see is what we do with 5, 5, 5 plus 3, 2, 5 minus 6. So now you see we have formatted the array to show 5, 5, 5. This is one whole number plus 3, 2, 5 minus 6. So we have our stuff working as it should. Alright, so let's begin to calculate. Now that we have our formatted array called array, we are now going to calculate the user input based on our formatted calculate. Right? So let's begin that. So our current value is 0 and the current action is equal to null. The action is the symbol, whether it's plus, minus, or whatever. And we're going to say a for I is equal to 0, I less than or equal to count of the array minus 1. So we're just going to pass through the array, the formatted array we just created. So you're going to pass that and you're going to take some actions. So what are we going to do? Let's see. So the first thing we say, according to what I have, is numeric R I. Is numeric. Alright. I get confused with what I do. Great. So first we say if we add a numeric field, and then we say if action, and I'm going to explain that. And we say if action is equal to plus, then here's what we're going to do. We're going to say current is equal to current, so we add it back from the current, plus the current number, right? So that's the current new number that we're on. If we have an action, we just add it. And once we do that, we can say action is equal to null. So we're going to empty the action. And in the case where it is not numeric, if current is equal to 0, we say current is equal to, right? So if current is equal to 0, that means we have now started. Then the current value is actually the first number that we hit. But that is not the case otherwise. And finally, if it is not numeric, so remember I have an if up here, else, one second, I'm confusing myself. Alright, so if action else, so this has an else. So if it's not an action, we need to do something. So not confusing myself. All right, and again I'll run this through again. So else if current. So this if we have an action, we take the action and we set action to null, if we don't have an action, and if the current is equal to 0, we say the first number that we meet is equal to that. Else, now a big else is in the case of numeric, and we say the action is equal to, again, I'm gonna explain this, right? And then we return in the current value. Alright, so let's run it through again. So if we find a number, and within that number, if we have an action set, we add the current value to the number using the action that we have, and then we set the action to null, and the action could be plus, minus, divide. Right? If the number is numeric but we don't have an action set, then and if current is equal to 0, if it's not equal to 0, we don't need to do anything. But if it's equal to 0, then the current value is equal to the current number that we on. And finally, if it is not numeric, this is where we set the action. So remember, action here, we set it back to null. So let's run this through using the whiteboard. Alright, so 12 plus 45. So this is technically an array. So we have 12 and we have 45. So the first thing we say is, if it's numeric, right? If we don't have an action set, that's fine. So currently we don't have any action set. So we say 12, if it's numeric, we have no action set. That means the current value is 12. Right? Because remember the code we say, if current is equal to 0, and right now current is equal to 0, and we have no action set, so if we had an action, we'd take the action, but we don't have any action sets, and also the current is equal to 0, so that means the current value is equal to the number that we on. So the next time we're gonna go, so that was here. Now we on this pass. So once you reach to plus, we're saying that, hey, this is not numeric, which means the only thing we need to do is set the action, right? So now we have an action. So the action is plus. So that's plus. And now we on 45. So the current value is not 0. And we have an action set. So what we're going to do, we're going to say if the action is plus and the action is plus, then we're going to say the current value is equal to current plus whatever number we on. So the current value is 12, and we're going to say plus, and whatever number we on is 45. So that's going to give us the calculation. And we could basically do this for all the other numbers. So regardless of what we have, if we had more plus 45 plus 3, it will work the same way. So once you reach here, current value would be 0, so the current value will become 12. Then we would have a action, so the action will become plus. Then we go to 45, and now you could see we have a current action, so it will be 12 plus 45, and the current value would be whatever 12 plus 45 is. And then we would go to this, the next action will become plus, because once we do this action and we use the action on this, we set the action to null. So now we have a new action called plus, and then we go to 3, and once we see 3 and we know that the current value is not 0 and it would not be 0, then we would say current value plus the current number, and we would get the calculation. Alright, so let's get that. We're gonna set the current value to whatever, the global current value to whatever we calculated, and that should take us where we need to go. So let's say 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 plus 5 is equal to 10 plus 1 is equal to 11 plus 8 is equal to 19 plus 1 is equal to 20. Alright, so we are halfway there. What we want to do now is going to add the logic for the other symbols. So divide, multiply, subtract, and plus. So that is really simple. We could say if action is equal to minus, we minus it. If action is equal to multiply, we multiply it. If action is equal to divide, we divide it. So we are getting somewhere. Let's just check that out. So now we could see 10. Oh, we don't have zeros yet. So let's just do 12 divided by 2, and we should get 6 plus 3 is equal to 9 multiplied by 2 should be probably 18. Minus 1 is equal to 17. Minus 1 more is equal to 16, I think. There we go. And then we're going to divide it by 2 to give us 8. Alright, so we have that working.